Hi, second graders. Welcome back to your TV classroom. Today is Thursday, February 18th. You know, I'm having a great day, friends. I hope you are too. Mr. Kevin, how are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty spiffy.
Great.
Spiffy is good.
Spiffy is good. Sometimes it just helps you feel a little better when you feel spiffy.
Right.
Right?
And how about you, Mrs. Wally? How do you feel?
I'm in the green zone.
Good.
Yeah, I just feel content.
I'll put
There's
the chart
nothing
up.
big happening. I'm just calm and happy and ready to go. Gus, how are you feeling? Great. You're in the green zone. Pebble, what about you? Oh, you're feeling a little sleepy. So you're a little in the blue zone? All right, well, that's okay. Make sure to try and wake yourself up for our lesson, okay?
I thought Pebble would have slept like a rock.
Right? I thought so too, but he said that he didn't quite knock out. So it wasn't quite rocking kind of sleep. That's okay, Pebble. Sometimes that happens. All right, friends. Let's get going with What's Missing Thursday, which really is What Do I Know Thursday, to find out what I don't know. What do we know here? Think about our number bond. I love number bonds. They really make these problems not so difficult. What do we know? We don't know one of the parts. The other part, or addend, is 13, and the total is 22. You have many strategies you can choose to figure this out. You start at 13, count up to 22. You can take away 13 from 22. Do what works for you. The answer is 9. How I did it? I said, well, 13 to 20 is 7, and 2 more is 9. That quick. 33 minus something equals 11. Well, what do we know? We know we have a total of 13 because that's our whole, and when we subtract, we always start with the total amount. And we're going to have 11 left. So what are you going to do to solve this? You have a few options. You can count on, you can count back, you can do the standard algorithm. What's our answer? Our answer is 22. Because if I take 1 away from 3, I get 2, and if I take 10 away from 30, I get 20, and that makes 22. Okay, what do we know? We know that it's adding, which means we have one part missing, and the other part is 55, and our total is 67. Figure out the other part. The answer is 12. Because why? Gus, why is it 12? You said 7 ones minus 5 ones is 2 ones, and 6 tens minus 5 tens is 1 10, and that makes 12. Great. Okay, what do we know? Yes, Pebble. Pebble said, Mrs. Wally, pay attention to the operation. That means this right here. We're subtracting. That changes things a little bit. That means that this number is the whole, and I know one of my parts. How do I find the other part? Go ahead and solve. Here's what I did. 25 to 30 is 5. 30 to 40 is 10, so that's 15. And then 7 more is 22. You might have done 7 ones minus 5 ones is 2 ones, and 4 tens minus 2 tens is 2 tens. And that's 22. That can work as well. Last one. What do we know? Take a look at the operation. What do we know? We know the part we take away is 15, and the part that's left is 45. So we're trying to find a whole. What are we going to do? Put them together. What is 15 plus 45? 60. This is one of those cases where we're going to add the 5 and the 5, and it's going to make a 10. And then we have the 4 tens and the 1 10. So now we have 6 tens, which is 60. Okay, today we are learning to solve problems by skip counting and using place value to add and subtract. This is our 4th day of doing this. If it's not making sense, you need to reach out to your teacher and let them know. Let's practice skip counting by 5s. Write the next 5 numbers on your whiteboard. I'm going to do it. You're going to do it. Let's say it out loud together. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Great. Now you're going to skip count backwards by 10. So what place value is going to change? The tens place. And is the tens place going to go up by 1 each time or down by 1 each time? Down by 1 each time. So what is 1 less than 7 tens? 6 tens.
61.
And then 5 tens. And then
51.
4 tens.
41.
3 tens.
31.
2 tens.
21.
The ones place stays the same. 71, 61, 51, 41, 31, 21. Great job, 2nd graders. Let's take a look at this example. Cecilia is skip counting by tens from 58. So here's 58 right here. And Cecilia is skip counting by tens. What are the next 6 numbers she says? Well, look what you can do on a hundreds chart. This one is a regular hundreds chart that goes to 120. Look at this. Every time you go down on the hundreds chart, you add another group of 10. So 58, we'll start there. 68, 78, 88, 98. We needed 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 108, 118. Isn't that cool? I love hundreds charts. They're very helpful in seeing the patterns. Each time, the tens place went up by 1. So what are the 6 numbers that Cecilia said? Write them on your whiteboard. 68. What's next? 78, 88, 98, 108, 118. I find that when I write the numbers, I can really feel in my hand which place value is changing, because I have to change the stroke and then the other ones just all stay the same. So it helps to say it and it helps to feel it as you write it. Lily is skip counting by 5s from 100. What are the next 6 numbers she says? You have 30 seconds to write them down on your whiteboard. Ready? Go. Skip counting by 5s from 100. What are the next 6 numbers? Okay, you should have written 105, 110, 115, 120, 125, 130. I'm going to double check I have 6 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I also need to make sure I'm counting by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Yes, I was counting by 5s. Ah, great job, friends. You're getting really quick at this. Okay, Pablo has 342 space cards. Then he buys 100 more cards. How many space cards does Pablo have now? What's happening here? Yeah, this person named Pablo is buying space cards and then buys more. Okay, let's read and find our question. Pablo has 342 space cards. Then he buys 100 more cards. How many space cards does Pablo have now? What's our question? How many space cards does Pablo have now? Okay, what information do we have to work with this problem? Pablo has 342 space cards. That's what he has. Then he buys 100 more. Buys 100 more. How could we draw a picture to help us figure out the equation of this problem? Well, let's do a bar model. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I know that Pablo has, this is what Pablo has, 342 cards. Now, Pablo's going to buy 100 more. What should I draw to show that? Yeah, I'm just going to draw another bar. It's not going to be as long as the 342 because 100's less. And so this is the 100 more. This is the more part. So what do I have here? I have 2 parts. Well, if I have 2 parts, what do I do to find the total amount that Pablo has now? Yeah, we add. Go ahead, write that equation and solve. 342 plus 100 equals, yes, 442. So what is our answer? Nope, it's not just 442. What is our answer? Pablo has 442 space cards now. That is our answer. It's only an answer. I call this a naked number problem when there's no units. It's just the equation. There's no story. But if there's a story, we have to answer with the story information. Okay, friends? Awesome. Now this is a naked number problem. There's no story to it. But what I like to do in my head is make a story. And typically I use the story of frogs on a log when I'm adding or subtracting. And it's going to sound really funny with this equation. There are 426 frogs on a log, 100 jump off. How many are there now? It helps me to see the problem in my head. And when I see naked number problems like this, I always use frogs on a log when I'm subtracting. When you learn about multiplying and dividing later, I'll tell you what I use for that. But it helps me have context so you don't get lost in the problem. So what are we going to do? What's the math we need to do here? We don't just guess, and we don't just circle an answer. You need to write something on your whiteboard. So let's write the equation. 426 minus 100 equals, we don't know. What place value are we going to look at? What are we taking away? We're taking away one group of 100. So I'm going to look at the hundreds place value. And I have to think to myself, am I adding 100 frogs? Is it going to go up by 100 frogs, or is it going to go down by 100 frogs? It's going to go down. So it's not going to be 426. It's going to be 326. And in my head, I'm saying frogs on the log now, but there's no frogs in this problem. It just helps me to understand it. So now we look at the answers. Do we see our answer? We do. There it is. Now, Michael chose B as his answer. What did Michael do? What did Michael do? What do you think, Mr. Kevin? What did Michael do to choose B? What was his mistake?
Looks like he mistakenly did the tens instead of the hundreds.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
He took the hundreds down, the tens down by 1.
Yeah.
He did minus 10, not minus 100. Easy mistake to make. So that's why when you do math, you need to be focused. Now today, your assignment is to do page 385 and 386 in your math workbook. We finished a little bit early today, but this assignment is going to take you a little bit longer. So I want you to have some extra time to finish your assignment. Let's go over our learning today. We learned to solve problems by skip counting and using place value to add and subtract. We understood the problems, we chose a strategy, we solved the problems, and we explained our thinking. Great job, second graders. Mr. Kevin, if they wanted to, I don't know, write a story problem about frogs on a log and send it in for us to solve for them, how could they send us that problem?
Sure, they could send it to TV Classroom via email at tacoma.k12.wa.us, or if you want to send it in the regular mail. And if you do, by the way, students, the teachers will respond.
We'll write back in the mail and you'll get a letter.
They will send you a letter back. So that's a good tip there. TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
All right, friends. Thank you so much for your effort and concentration today. Up next is going to be Miss Oslin with ELA. So make sure during your break you gather all of the things you need for ELA. Make sure you get a drink of water, wiggle those legs, get some movement in, and then be back when she's on the screen ready to learn. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Greetings, young adventurers. You will be going on a quest. It will be a dangerous quest, filled with obstacles and dangerous creatures. Should you make it to the end of each level, you will receive a coin. Find all 4 coins, and you will be crowned the champion and receive this prize. Good luck, young adventurers. Well, time for my nap. Good day, young adventurers, and good luck. Greetings, young adventurers! Congratulations on collecting all 4 coins. Well done. By completing this quest, you will now receive your prize. I hope to one day see you again for another adventure. Goodbye, young adventurers.
Hi, second graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and being ready to go for our reading and writing lesson. Go ahead and take your ELA packet and your pencil and you can put them off to the side. You can go ahead and hold on to your learning buddy if they can help you focus. Now, we have a lot to be thinking about today, so make sure that your brain is awake. Check in. Brain, are you awake up there? Okay, let's go. We have been practicing finding an appropriate independent workspace. This is for when we are working independently, which means by yourself, when you're not with me on the screen, and when you're not in front of your teacher, when you're expected to go off and continue the learning by yourself. And you need to make sure that the space that you choose is comfortable, that your chair is not too big, not too large. You need to make sure that the atmosphere is good, that it's dry, that it's not too warm or too cold, that it's quiet, or that you're at least able to concentrate and focus on what you're doing. That it is in an area where you won't be interrupted, and that it has proper lighting, which means that you can see what you're doing. You're also practicing gathering your materials, which means making sure you have everything that you will need in your workspace to get your work done. Now, that might mean that you have your independent reading books, if that's what your task is. You're going to make sure that you have more than one book so that you can read for the whole time without having to get up. If you're going to be writing, you want to make sure you have your writing notebook, your pencil, your crayons if you're going to be drawing, so that you can get all of your work done, again, without getting up. Now, we looked at my workspace. It's comfortable, it has all of my materials, it has good lighting, it's not too cold or too hot, or if it is, I can fix it, and I can concentrate. And then we talked about many different types of workspace and how you as a learner need to pay close attention to what works for you. Because what works for me may not be what works for you and where you are at. So really be thinking about that. Okay. Along with making sure we have our materials and have our independent workspace. Today we're going to learn that writers of fiction use common structure to tell their stories. What that means is our fiction books, the books that we're reading that tell stories that come from our author's imagination, have a lot of the same things. And you'll remember that we learned to use our hand and a little chant to remember what those structures are. You remember this? Practice this with me. Get your hand up. Here we go. It's character, setting, beginning, middle, end. One more time. Character, setting, beginning, middle, end. Those are the structures used in fiction stories. And today we are going to work to complete an Elements of Fiction graphic organizer, where we think about the characters. The characters are who, do this with me, who the story is about. The setting is where and when the story happens. And then the plot is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. In the beginning, we usually are introduced to the who and to the problem. Now, in the middle is when the characters are trying to solve the problem. This is usually the scariest part, the saddest part, the funniest part of the story. And then at the end, that's how the problem is solved. You are going to help me complete this graphic organizer reading a story that we read at the beginning of the school year here in TV Classroom. Now, if you're new to TV Classroom, you may not know this story, but maybe your teacher read it, so I don't know. But we're all going to read The Best Story by Eileen Spinelli. The illustrations are by Anne Wilsdorf, and we're going to think about the common structures of a fiction story in Eileen Spinelli's story, The Best Story. I wonder if I've ever said a sentence with the word story in it so much as I just did. Probably not. The Red Brick Library was having a contest. Write the best story, win first prize. First prize was a ride on the Super Duper Looper roller coaster with my favorite author, Anne Miles, who wrote The Runaway Roller Coaster. Wow, first prizes don't get any better than that. I ran home, went to my room, shut the door. I sharpened 5 pencils, opened my notebook to a brand new page, and thought, and thought, and thought. And all I could think was this writing stuff was hard and lonely. Maybe I needed help. I told my brother Tim about the contest. The best stories, said my brother, have lots of action. Okay, we've been introduced to our main character, who the story is mostly about. Who is it? Yeah, it's the blonde character. Do we know our character's name? We don't. So we're going to say, and I'm also noticing that this story is being told from our main character's perspective because I'm seeing the word I. This character is telling the story. I ran home. Oh, right there, we also know the where. Where is the story taking place? At our main character's home. So I'm going to, we don't have a name. I'm going to call this character the writer, right? Because this is the person who is trying to write the best story. So that's what I'm going to write here where it says, who is the story about? The person trying to write the best story. Now, where and when does the story take place? At the main character's house. When does this story take place? We don't really know, but I can make an assumption that it's during the day because these people are all awake. And typically, especially kids, sleep at night. So we can assume that it's during the day. Okay, we've read the beginning. What is the problem that our character is facing? I'm going to reread that first page, and then I'm going to give you some think time and then a chance to talk to your learning buddy about what the problem is. I ran home, went to my room, shut the door. I sharpened 5 pencils, opened my notebook to a brand new page, and thought, and thought, and thought. And all I could think was this writing stuff was really hard and lonely. Maybe I needed help. Okay, take some think time. What is our problem? Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Gus, our character character is trying to write and they can't think of any ideas what to write about. They're stuck. We call that writer's block. Okay, the problem is the writer has writer's block. As I'm writing that, I want you to notice our writer's independent workspace. What do you notice about it? What did you notice? It looks comfortable. It looks like there's plenty of light. The writer has all of their materials. They have their notebook, they have independent reading books, and I noticed that the narrator, the person telling the story, the main character, says that they sharpened 5 pencils to make sure they had a pencil to do their writing in case one broke. Okay, we have our character, setting, beginning. Now we need to think about the middle, and this is what the characters are doing, how they're trying to solve the problem. I told my brother Tim about the contest. The best stories, said my brother Tim, have lots of action. So I wrote a lot of action into my story. I wrote about a bus hurtling down the highway with no one at the wheel. I added a tornado and a pirate and a great white shark, but the story didn't seem quite right. So I asked my dad, and he said, the best stories have plenty of humor. Humor is something that makes you laugh. The best stories have plenty of humor. So I changed the great white shark to a monkey, and I put the monkey at the wheel of the bus. And I turned the tornado into turnips. And I dressed the pirate in polka dot pajamas. Dad laughed so hard he popped a shirt button. Even so, the story didn't quite feel right. Along came Aunt Jane. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm writing a story. The best story. For a contest at the library. I can win a roller coaster ride with my favorite author." "Oh, well then," said Aunt Jane, "here's all you need to know. The best stories are the ones that make people cry." So I gave the bus a flat tire. I sent the monkey to the funeral of his pet goldfish. I turned the turnips into onions. And I made the pirate chop every one. There were lots of tears, but the story still wasn't right. So I'm noticing that the character is trying to write a story that has lots of action. Maybe it was kind of scary, like I said, the scariest part of the story. Or she tried to add humor, which would be the funniest part of the story. Or, trying to make people cry, so that would be the saddest part of the story. What is happening here? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking is happening in the middle of the story. What are the characters doing to solve the problem? Gus, the writer's family, is all trying to tell them what makes the best story, but none of it seems right. Now, on my graphic organizer where it says middle, what are the characters doing and what is the action? I'm going to add what I just said. Okay, let's keep reading to the end of the story to see how our characters solve their problem. My teenage cousin Annika said, "I have news for you. If it's not romantic, it's a loser." So the pirate introduced the monkey to his sister Grace, and they fell in love. And I turned the onions into wedding invitations, and everyone lived happily ever after. Finally, my story was ready, so I read it to my family. "Not enough action," said my brother Tim. "Maybe the monkey can fall into the wedding cake," said Dad. "That would be really funny." "It's hard to cry at a wedding when the groom is a monkey," said Aunt Jane. Annika said it would be perfect if I added a kiss. In all this time, my mother hadn't said a word. So I asked her, "What do you think is the best story?" She gave me a hug. "I think the best story is one that comes from the heart, your own heart." That night, after supper, I looked into my own heart and rewrote my story. No more monkey, no more pirate, no more wedding invitations, no more happily ever after. My new best story is about my family and my two best friends, Tara and Josh. It's about my cat Ollie, who sleeps on his back, and snow days and toast with strawberry jam. It's about fireworks and rainbows and bike rides. My biggest problem was keeping the story short. Once I started pulling things out of my heart, it was hard to stop. When my story was finished, I turned it in to the judges. Maybe I'll win that roller coaster ride with Ann Miles, and maybe I won't. Either way, I'll be happy. I'll be a winner, because the story I wrote is my own, not somebody else's, and that makes it the best. So, how is our problem solved at the end of the story? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy how our character solves their problem. Gus, the writer gets advice from their mother to write the story from their own heart, and then they are able to write the best story. Now, I'm going to write that on my graphic organizer. Now, second graders, we learned today that writers of fiction use common structure to tell their stories. The structure is, are you ready? Character, setting, beginning, middle, end. Let's do that one more time. Character, setting, beginning, middle, end. You are going to use this Elements of Fiction graphic organizer to help you notice and better understand the structure of the fiction stories that you are reading during your independent reading time. Now, you may not have this graphic organizer, and that's okay. You can do this in your writing notebook. You can write characters and then write who the characters are in your independent reading books. That's why I want you to have this chant in your head so you remember those common story elements and don't really need this graphic organizer. Again, you're also going to continue practice being a strong, independent learner when you don't have a teacher in front of you. You're going to make sure you have your workspace that it is comfortable, that it's not too dry or not too hot, not too warm, that it's dry, that it's quiet so you can concentrate, that it's in an area where you won't be interrupted frequently, and that there's enough light so you can see your independent reading books and your writing notebook. And we would love to see what you are pulling out of your independent reading books, those common story structures. Mr. Kevin, where can our second graders send us their work?
Students, you can send your work to our classroom via email, tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us, or you can send it in the mail, and that address is TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Now, second graders, this is the time in our lesson when we get to say our affirmation. We get to say something kind about ourselves, to build ourselves up, to feel really good about going off to do our independent work. And today, the affirmation I want you to remind yourself is, I am a kind person. Practice saying that out loud with me. I am a kind person. Excellent job today, second graders. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.